welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well and staying safe today, making sure you get your masks on, washing your hands, all that good stuff, guys. Welcome to a new segment for the channel. This is called Gaming Rants, and yeah, as the title suggests, this is going to be an opportunity for me to get some stuff off my chest regarding the gaming industry in general, and hopefully kind of, prompt some discussion. So my idea for this series is that we pick a subject every week and talk about it, and you can respond in a number of ways. You can respond with comments just down below. You can hit me up when I post the link on Twitter, or I am going to start up a string called Gaming Rants on Discord, and please feel free to interact over there and give me your opinions, or you can do all if you like. We'll see. We'll try a couple of these. I don't know how long it will last. It just depends. It's going to be very dependent on certain subjects. I've got about 3 or 4 that I can start with, and we'll see how the response is. And yeah, if it's good, we'll keep going. If you want to suggest some subjects you'd like to hear me talk about, please feel free also to put those forward in the comments down below. So this week we are going to start with a subject that's near and dear to my heart. Now, I've got to give you a kind of couple of things before we get started on this. I am an old guy, and so I have grown up with the video gaming industry from day one. Yes, I do remember. Yes, there was dinosaurs roaming the earth at that time, but I do remember a time when there wasn't video games, and I've grown up with all the various consoles and configurations and everything. So I remember that very well myself. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is also kind of a little bit historic in the way that I've been used to consuming games from the past, but there is also a very worrying sign, or a very worrying trend in my opinion, coming out of the video gaming development companies, and I think it needs to be discussed and tackled head on, because I don't think it's a healthy trend. And that's the fact that we as consumers should be able to buy a product that works out of the box. I'm a very, very big consumer of games. I buy a lot of games on a yearly basis. I know many of you can't afford to do that, and so you might buy 1 or 2 games a year because they are expensive. They are a bit of a luxury item. You have other expenses like family and bills and all kinds of stuff. So when you put your hand in your pocket, you have to be very careful in the game you're going to buy. And I don't think, regardless of whether you buy 1 game or 10 games a year, it should matter. We should be able to have the game that we buy work perfectly, or almost perfectly, at the gate. Once we put it in our console, whether it's a digital download, whether it's a disc, whatever it might be, it should just work. And more recently, in more recent times, it seems to be a trend that's happening now, where companies seem to think it's okay to ship games that are partially finished. And I'm here to say, no, it's not good enough. It is just not good enough. Ask yourself this question. Of the new games that you've bought lately, how many of them have been finished? How many haven't required any kind of tweak, any kind of major update to them? And I went through my library, and I was very surprised at the number of games that I've purchased in the last year and a half that have needed, even in some cases, complete overhauls to get the game to work properly. Now, we will be covering other subjects on early testing. That will be another one of these gaming rant videos. But I've got to say that I'm going to call a few games out. If I look at Fallout 76, for instance, if I look at Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Call of Duty World War Two, Anthem, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and there is a number of other games. Those are just the ones that come to mind. A number of those games were obviously not finished, and when some of us got early access to those games, you could see what the developers needed to do. Um, the community gave a lot of feedback, and credit to companies like Bethesda and Ubisoft. If I think about, for instance, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which is a game I've played a heck of a lot, the Ubisoft developers very early on, I think it was within the first 3 months of the game launching, for 6 months, I can't remember quite what the time frame was, but they completely overhauled that game and fixed a lot of the issues. And now, when I bought it after that period because they just fixed it and they wanted people to buy it, and so they discounted it fairly heavily to get people to come to it. I played that in early access, and then I went back and played it the full game after they'd fixed everything, and it was just completely different game. Fantastic game, and I absolutely loved that game. Played it to death, got fully immersed into it. My question is, why can't they involve the community earlier, get that feedback, and do those fixes before we put our hands in our pockets and then spend the next 6 months or 12 months being frustrated about how buggy the game is. We'll talk about Fallout 76 in a minute and how this hopefully is starting to, the momentum about this particular subject is starting to turn, and 76 it might be a catalyst for that. But if I look at the last couple Call of Duties that I've bought, Modern Warfare is the most recent. I didn't buy Black Ops 4, but I did buy World War 2. I don't know what it is about Activision and the fact that they think it's okay to ship that game completely unfinished and spend the whole year fixing the game. They have 3 studios working on different versions of the game on a 3-year cycle. Now, if they can't get that done in a 3-year cycle, then maybe they need to stop and look at that cycle and change it, because World War Two is another game which had a fantastic amount of potential. It launched, it got absolutely hammered, it got absolutely criticised to death. I think about 4 or 5 months in, again, the company that were publishing that game completely overhauled it and made it a fantastic game. The problem is, most of the people that bought that game by that point in the game's life cycle had left because they were so frustrated by it. And it's really a great pity. I think a lot of these companies are shooting themselves in the foot because they are producing great games, but they're not producing the best version of that game until much later in their cycle, and they're losing people. And then what it does, I have a sales background, so I understand this a lot. Then what it does is people look at their franchise or their brand, and they're less likely to put their hand in the pocket the next time if they've had a bad experience. And so these companies need to start understanding that it isn't good enough just because the technology allows you to push updates as often as you like. It's not good enough just to ship a game that is broken. If I go forward to Call of Duty Modern Warfare this year, that game is fantastic. It's probably their highest grossing game, but I've got to say it's broken as hell. And I don't think there's many people that will argue with that. The amount of glitching that you can do in that game, you can get on top of the map, under the map, outside the map. The gun balance wasn't right. There's just a whole list of things. Hit detection was crap when we started. And to add insult to injury, you've spent $100, $150, whatever it might be on, and I'm talking Australian dollars, you spent whatever amount of money you have on that game, And to add insult to injury, they're giving you updates that can be 60, 80 gigs at a time. They're consuming 200 gigs of space on your hard drive just to play the game. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and it needs to stop. It absolutely needs to stop. Way back when companies weren't worrying about beating the competitors and getting the game out before the competitors, blah blah blah, the companies used to spend the time. It could be 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years, I don't know what it might be, to develop a game and make sure that it's right, or at least 99% correct on launch. Now, we've all become accustomed to updates for a game, and we kind of expect updates for a game every now and again. We don't want updates every week or every couple of weeks. That tells me that you're just not doing your due diligence and testing. But that seems to be the trend, because the technology is there, the server-based technology is there to be able to push updates as often as they like. And so yeah, let's get it to 80%, get it to market and make the money, and then we'll go on from there. That's the attitude that needs to stop. So it's very easy to sit here and criticise companies for what they do. I'm sure there are very valid reasons why they do it, and I'm not saying that the developers don't spend a lot of time and a lot of testing in getting the games right, but it just seems that, to me as a consumer, they don't spend enough time. So how do we move forward? Well, more recently in Australia, of all places, Fallout 76 was taken, the company ZeniMax or Bethesda Studios was taken to court, and they lost their case and had to issue refunds on Fallout 76 for shipping what was a faulty product, and it was deemed to be a faulty product, and it didn't comply with the law here. And a lot of consumers have been trying with various companies to get refunds for games that they feel are substandard, and Fallout 76 is a kind of landmark case in Australia where the authorities have actually gone after them. The ACCC is the consumer watchdog here in Australia, and they went to the federal court, and it was deemed, and I'll read it here, it was a court enforceable undertaking, that they misled consumers about the consumer rights on an online game. And so that is part of the process, or part of the catalyst, where gaming companies will, at least in Australia, start to be a bit more careful on how they're shipping games and what condition they're shipping games in. I think the solution is a lot simpler than that. Get the gaming community involved in the development cycle a lot earlier. And if I look at, I must give credit to Ubisoft, and especially my experience with Ghost Recon Breakpoint. When I play betas, I make it a point that if I've been granted early access to a game, that I make a point of paying that back by giving as much feedback on the game as is possible, which I did with Ghost Recon Breakpoint to Ubisoft. And as it turned out, much of the community had very similar views to what I'd found with the game. Now, to Ubisoft's credit, the majority of issues that we as the gaming community found with that game were addressed. And I think that is the answer. That is the answer, is to get the community involved, the gamers involved, and make them part of the process, and making sure that when you ship it, you ship an awesome game. We all are time poor. We haven't got a huge amount of time that we play games. Some us more than others, but we want a game which just works. I mean, you can imagine you buy a car, You can't keep taking it back into your dealership every week or every couple of weeks so that they can give you an update. It's ridiculous. So, the authorities need to be stronger, I think. The community needs to be more involved in the process. They really do need to start listening to the community a lot more, and understand that a majority of us are not being malicious when we give feedback. We actually want to help them make better games. Okay guys, that's it for my rant for this week. That's the first one out of the way. I would love to hear what you think, and I'd love to see your comments either down below. There is always a link to either my Twitter or my Discord, so if you want to hop over there and leave me a comment, please also feel free to do that. And also let me know if you are you going to enjoy this kind of series, and any subjects that you want me to cover for future episodes. Okay guys, stay safe, be well, and we'll catch you next time on Gaming for XP. See ya!